My name is Eller Kelliher, and I am the incoming Chief Investment Officer at Launch Tennessee. And my big idea is that in order to excel and succeed as a community, we have to collaborate.
Well, Eller, thanks for joining us today. I know, and listen, y'all, it's like you're literally 24 hours into this. So I appreciate you sitting down, with us to introduce yourself, but really to introduce your philosophy to, the folks that we're looking to serve. Now, you've come from the private sector.
Yes.
And the listeners of this podcast come from all different walks of life. That we've got artists listening, we've got scientists, we've got all sorts of folks. So let's start from the very beginning, which is when you talk about capital, it's money.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So tell me what you think about the power of investment, the power of money, and what it can do for an individual, but maybe even bigger for a community.
Sure. So I want to push on, obviously, the traditional or the obvious definition of capital is money, and money solves a lot of problems and accelerates a lot of new businesses. But my belief is that, yes, financial capital will accelerate a whole lot of other different types of capital, human capital, talent capital. And to me, that it's an important thing to define when we're talking in the context of, Launch Tennessee and the LaunchTN program, because the purpose of these investment dollars, this investment capital, is to make an economic impact that isn't purely driven by quote unquote financial returns. It is, are we making an impact in the local communities that we are serving? Are we leveraging this capital to bring more talent into the state, have more or additional private dollars flow into the state alongside our money? So it's starting with capital in terms of money, but how does that capital grow beyond just money?
Well, and beyond just money, because most people don't say the word capital. Like most small business owners or most, entrepreneurs, they say money.
Yep.
They say money. But what you're talking about goes, like you say, it goes beyond just money. And it goes into connections and it goes into empowerment. So when you're talking about collaboration, you're talking about, literally investors collaborating with entrepreneurs, but I think also the opportunity to collaborate between public and private.
Yes.
And what do you see as an opportunity there?
So something that is so unique about the LaunchTN program and how my predecessor, Monique, really worked with the state to design how the capital, the money, was going to be deployed is we certainly are making lots of direct investments into companies, into startups, into founders, but we also are going to be making investments into venture funds, so other private capital funds. So to me, there's this unique blend of we're using treasury dollars to make direct investments into startups and early stage companies, but we're also going to put those dollars into the hands of other private investors who are committed to investing in Tennessee-based startups. They can leverage their own investment techniques and investment strategies to do so, but you are leveraging both, purely government funds directly to companies, but also government funds going into venture funds that then can deploy their own private strategies into the same types of companies.
Well, and again, like for the audience that may or may not know, what is a venture fund?
Oh gosh, a venture fund can have so many definitions, but a venture fund is, when you have private dollars. Typically, you're calling those investors your LPs, your limited partners. So limited partners pooling their capital under a managing partner, and that managing partner is going to develop a fund thesis or an investment thesis to then deploy or dole out those dollars to companies that fall within that investment thesis. Is that fair?
No, it's totally fair. And again, sometimes it's the difference between, say, a venture fund where you have private dollars, private investors being able to make those decisions, being able to come up with that thesis is a very different setup, different situation than a bank loan, than a traditional lending arrangement that a lot of folks are more familiar with.
Yes.
Right?
So really, a venture fund is a great way for very early companies or founders that maybe don't have, they're not in a situation where they can apply for a loan. They don't have the collateral to put up for a loan. They don't have friends and family that have capital that they can, support that founder with. So venture funds are designed to be a source of private capital that is going to be a little bit higher risk than a traditional loan structure that a bank would be looking at. So it's another source of funding for companies that don't necessarily fit the bill for a company that's going to be applying for a loan.
Well, and I think a lot of us see it's sort of like the magazine cover version of entrepreneurship.
Sure.
You see, entrepreneur X gets $300 million in this and this, and you're like, well, he didn't need it in the first place, right? It's fine.
Sure.
So for those that are maybe in those beginning stages, maybe it is an idea, maybe it's a potential patent, maybe it's it's an artist, or maybe it's someone licensing technology from Oak Ridge National Lab. What are things that from your side of the table as an investment thesis for the Invest Tennessee, what are some of the things that our entrepreneurs can be doing to prepare themselves to be investable?
So I think a big thing is, particularly for those companies that you're kind of talking about, very early stage, it's an idea on a napkin, they're just getting started. If they build out their pitch deck and they're getting things ready to go out and fundraise, the number of no's that they'll receive from traditional venture funds, particularly a lot of venture funds in the state, not all, but a lot of them, it's just going to be too early. It's going to be way too risky. And it's hard to find those types of funds that are making those really early investments that typically most founders would get from a friends and family round. So again, I believe that LaunchTN can play an incredible role of writing very small checks through our regional seed fund portion of the LaunchTN fund that can, in some ways, serve as that friends and family check in the very early stages of getting started.
Well, and for the folks that maybe do, I'll ask sort of a tiered set of questions, right? So for the folks that, are in that space, talk a little bit about, so in Tennessee, we are one of the states, like, hey, if you're listening from outside of Tennessee, it's a pretty good place to live. Hit me up, ask me some questions. But we're lucky in that we actually have a network of entrepreneur centers. There's, the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center, of course, but then our partner organizations in Chattanooga, in Memphis, in Kingsport, in Cookeville, in Nashville, and all over. And how are those companies that are sort of in those areas going to access, or at least, get the first point of contact to get to the fund?
Great. Love this question, and I'm so excited that I get to talk about it. The way that this program was set up, and Monique and the capital team before me, they've done an incredible job of ensuring that we have great partners at all of our regional entrepreneur centers. So we have regional capital coordinators at every single site across the state. So if you are here or in Knoxville's area, the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center should service the counties surrounding Knoxville. And so any founder that is, a ways outside of Knoxville, but is within the counties that the Knoxville EC Regional Capital Coordinator oversees, you should have access to them. And the Knoxville EC should be supporting those founders from afar and encouraging them to apply for these funds. They are specifically trained to help those founders with their application for funding so that LaunchTN can be serving all 95 counties across the state.
So it's a tall order.
Yeah.
But it's one that I think I'm interested to see play out. I'm one that, this collaboration between, it's public, it's private, it's state, it's local, it is individual investors, and anywhere and everywhere in between. So we'll share some info in the outro and also in the show notes about like where to go, where to learn more.
Yep.
But one thing I want to do, I want to take it back for just a second. And, as managing director of like Jumpstart, Foundry, and pieces and parts of other funds, what are some of your most effective memories from being in this world where capital or collaboration has been applied to a company, or maybe even better yet, a founder and their team to really help somebody make it?
That's a great question. And I would say for me, I'm not going to boil it down to one specific example, but I think what has encouraged me about, building in investing in Tennessee is that my time at Jumpstart was really foundational in that, when I joined, our founders, Vic and Marcus, had just kind of pivoted the whole thing to be healthcare specific. And what that did was it helped the community of Nashville, which is so heavy in healthcare, really kind of wrap its arms around, okay, this is what we're doing. So Nashville does healthcare really well. Jumpstart does very early stage healthcare, and immediately it allowed all of these great collaborators, whether it be mentors or other investors, to kind of come into our sphere and assist. And so I think the big thing that I would say what I've learned with Jumpstart, with Launch, with all of these great organizations is that when you set out a purpose of we're going to invest these dollars in this way, the people that are really going to help further that mission, whether, again, at Jumpstart, we're going to be healthcare specific and we need this very specific type of mentor to come in. If we can be very clear about that purpose and that ask, I believe we will find those people in our community that can help collaborate to make all of this change a reality. So my hope is that with, the Knoxville EC, we're going to be really intentional about, one, making sure we leverage the capital coordinator here, and that we're in touch with all of the amazing entrepreneurs around the Knoxville Entrepreneur Center's kind of focus area to actually help get them to our application, and that we actually do end up writing checks into them. So
well, we do too.
I know.
So, Eller, thank you so much for taking the time today. And if you are listening and you're thinking, this is above me, this is over my head, I want to remind y'all that I'm a painting major, that I graduated.
Really?
I am. I'm a painting major.
I love that.
And so if I can ask these questions, so can you. If I can find the people that, that understand this world, that understand what it takes, from a money side, from all that, then so can you. And I challenge everybody out there to not only ask yourself, like, what value does my business bring, right? But what value can I bring to others? And that's that collaboration piece that I think, our little state, and particularly our little town, go Knoxville, go Maker City. If you're listening in Memphis, also, you guys are doing great. So, but, I think it's just, it's fun to see so many people row in the boat in the same direction.
Yep.
So this is Big Ideas Welcome. And if you've got big ideas, let's put them to work.
I love it. Put them to work through LaunchTN. Reach out to your regional capital coordinator today.
Yes. All right. Thank you so much, Eller.
You're so welcome. Thank you.